What's up everyone, it's Karthik with MoneyVest. So this is going to be your breakdown on some of the most notable money managers in the industry. So as we know, the 13F filings came in yesterday. Yesterday was the deadline for the second quarter 2024. And in this video, I'm going to break down almost over $800 billion in assets under management, managed by some of the most notable professionals that we know of course, Warren Buffett, Howard Marks, Bill Ackman, Paul Tudor Jones, Joel Greenblatt, Jim Simmons, Ray Dalio, David Tepper, and a few other funds that were quite interesting with their buying and selling and their notable changes for the second quarter here. So hope you all enjoyed this video. This is not supposed to be exhaustive, as I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of other funds managing hundreds of billions of dollars. So I'm not going over every single fund here, but I am going to be breaking down some of the traders, investors that of course I look up to: Warren Buffett, Howard Marks, Bill Ackman, Joel Greenblatt. I've essentially read books from Howard Marks, Joel Greenblatt, and Warren Buffett. Jim Simmons from Renaissance Technology, very, very profitable fund. It's actually one of the most successful funds out there in the world of investing and trading. Ray Dalio, as we already know, from, of course, Bridgewater Associates, one of the largest hedge funds out there. So very, very important and notable changes, and all of these valued over $800 billion in assets under management. All the timestamps are going to be down below. So if you want to sort of fast forward to specific fund or specific manager, you can do that. And make sure that you drop a like and subscribe to the channel as well. So starting with Buffett, just under $280 billion. His biggest position is still, of course, Apple at over 30%, followed by Bank of America just under 15%, American Express at over 12.6%, Coca-Cola at over 9.2%. And of course, a lot of really, really small positions exiting out of Snowflake. And I've also included for performance of these funds going back as far as 2021. So you can actually take a look and really understand, how much weight you want to give to their decisions. And I also want to mention that this is as of second quarter 2024. So a lot of these decisions are already outdated because we're already in the third quarter. We're in September now. Actually, we're still in August. I've been working too much. So we're now in August. So we're in the third quarter. And the fourth quarter is going to start in September. So this is a little bit more outdated information, but it still gives us a bit of an idea on what these biggest money managers have been up to in the second quarter 2024. And I've also included for the performance. So again, you can decide how much weight to give each fund manager and each, of course, decision that they've made. So when it comes to Berkshire Hathaway, we've got 24.5% in the performance for second quarter 2024 compared to the S&P 500, 27%. So they're trailing a little bit on the S&P 500, but as we already know, Warren Buffett is Warren Buffett. So some of the more notable sales, as you can see, Snowflake getting out of that position, so sold out. Paramount Global also selling that position. Apple, as we already discussed in our previous videos, selling almost 50% of his position, almost 390 million shares. And that, of course, is a big sale for Warren Buffett, putting it all into T-bills. Then we got Capital One, we got Floor & Decor, we got T-Mobile, Chevron, Liberty Media. So all of these were big notable sales for Warren Buffett. When it comes to notable buys, we did have SiriusXM Holdings up 262%. That was an increase of over 96 million shares, an additional 96 million. And of course, a brand new position, Ulta Beauty. This is a new buy. And then one more, Heiko Corporation, which was also a new buy. And both of them, 690,000 shares for Ulta Beauty and just over a million shares for Heiko Corporation. And I think Ulta Beauty was up almost 15% after hours after this news broke out from yesterday. Now, Howard Marks is OakTree Capital Management. They do have quite a few positions that are their top positions. So TRMD, if you come over, take a look at what this stock is. It's going to be Trustmark Corporation, followed by CHK. So this right here is going to be their second biggest position with an allocation of just over 10.5%. That's going to be Chesapeake Energy Corporation. Yeah, so that's been one of the Howard Marks position. Performance-wise, also very strong. We're looking at 36% performance since 2021. He's written extensively on fundamental investing, value investing. So he's also one of those mentors that I look up to very much. And these right here are some of the notable sales from Howard Marks. Proficient, you got Cheesecake Factory, Solar Edge, Snap, All of these down significantly from 34 to 57%, selling in the millions of shares here for these particular companies. And then if you come over to some notable buys, this right here are going to be some of the stocks that he picked up as new buys and also picking up in significant amount of shares. We're talking, again, hundreds of thousands, millions of shares. We got State Street, we got Vicasa, we got NRG Energy, Liberty Global, then we've got Vistra. You know, a lot of these stocks are a bit more on the unknown side. I mean, these are companies that may not even be public. I mean, a lot of them don't even have any tickers, but some of them, of course, do. Many of them do. But those right there are some of the newer buys. Like, for example, Trip.com from Group Limited is a new buy for Howard Marks, picking up almost over 500,000 shares in the second quarter 2024. Now, coming over to Bill Ackman, I actually want to make a small correction that for Google, he actually did sell shares and not actually buy them because he did start a position, I believe, in the first quarter 2023. So he has sold some shares, but it's still a pretty sizable position for Bill Ackman. So Bill Ackman's performance has also been a little bit better than compared to the market. So this hasn't updated yet, but as of the second quarter 2024, as of the first quarter 2024, we are up over 34% for Bill Ackman for his Pershing Square versus 32% on the S&P 500, so slightly better compared to the S&P 500. And these are some of the notable buys and sells. So Chipotle, we're seeing over 8 million shares reduction of over 22.5%. So that's a pretty big sale. Both Google shares also coming in with about 1.8 million and 368,000 respectively. So combined, we're looking at just under 2.3 million shares sold in the second quarter 2024, but still a very sizable position for Bill Ackman and Pershing Square. Then we also had, of course, Nike getting picked up 3 million shares. So that's a big position. That's a new position. And then SEG also getting picked up by over 2 million shares here. And then we've got BN also getting picked up at over 6.8 million shares for Pershing Square as well as of the second quarter 2024. So these are two brand new positions as of second quarter 2024 for Pershing Square for Bill Ackman. Now coming over to Allianceberstein, again, these are different funds that I've included because they do have a lot of assets under management. It's one of the large advisory firms with 25,000 clients, discretionary assets under management, well over $636 billion. The filing included for $286 billion of managed funds in the 13F as of the second quarter 2024. Performance-wise, they've also beaten the expectations for S&P 500 here at 38% in terms of that performance over the last 3 years that we're looking at. And these are some of the notable changes because they do own a lot of technology stock. Microsoft getting down 470,000. Then we had Nvidia 148,000. You will notice a lot of Nvidia sales in these filings. Amazon getting picked up almost 300,000 shares. Google down 2 million. Meta down 349,000. Apple getting picked up almost 1 million shares in the second quarter. Visa down about 149,000. Eli Lilly up 83,000 getting bought up here, and UNH was down almost 2.5 million, with Costco and Vertex also getting picked up by 88,000 and 123,000 respectively. And then, of course, there's some other companies like, for example, Netflix, 906,000 getting bought. We got Qualcomm getting sold, 1.5 million. And then you got Broadcom here down 713,000. Monster Beverages, which I believe is MNST, if I'm not mistaken. Monster Beverages down over almost 3 million shares sold by this company, and Adobe also over 363,000 shares sold, with Home Depot getting picked up 1.8 million shares. So again, you can kind of take a look at, you know, what that means for you and your holdings if you're holding on any of these stocks. For me personally, of course, Google getting sold off by multiple different investors is a bit of a concern, but at the same time, it's still a sizable position for a lot of these investors, so it's not like they're getting completely out. They are, of course, taking some profits considering how much of a rally we've seen for Google, for Amazon, for Microsoft, for a lot of these companies, especially Nvidia, right? So if they are selling Nvidia, it would be one thing if they're selling completely out of Nvidia and they're exiting completely. But of course, they are de-risking a little bit. They're rebalancing and they're taking some profits off the table of these companies. However, there are a few funds that have been completely out of Palantir and SOFI, which we'll discuss later in the video as well. So now we're going over to Cliff Asness, AQR Capital Management, $65 billion in assets under management, 30% performance, 30% returns against the S&P 500's 27% as of the second quarter 2024. And this right here is the number one ranking, a $1.3 million million share sale of NVIDIA. And again, that's an 8% change on a quarter-over-quarter basis. Apple also getting sold, 190,000. We got Microsoft, 111,000. Google, almost 400,000. Meta, 166,000. Broadcom, almost 300,000. And then we got GE, General Electric, almost 200,000. Some of the notable buys, buying the other Google stock, GOOG, and that's 65,000. So very, very small purchase compared to the sale of 400,000 almost. Then we've got Johnson & Johnson, 932,000. Then we've got CI, which I believe might be Cigna Group. Let me just take a quick look here. CI is going to be, so the Cigna Group getting picked up by over 600,000 shares, and Amazon at 27,000. So what I've seen from a lot of these reports is that Amazon, there seems to be a bit of a bullish stance on Amazon, not a great stance on Google, and of course NVIDIA makes sense because of the price increase from the last couple quarters that we have witnessed for that stock. Then we got Eli Lilly, 70,000, 6.6 million shares of AT&T. That's going to be ticker symbol T, I believe. Just want to make sure. So yep, AT&T, 6.6 million shares picked up. Then you got ExxonMobil, 1.8 million. We got Applied Materials, 117,000. We got Comcast, 4.1 million, and Zoom at 2.5 million shares as well. So a lot of buys over there for these stocks. And then CSCO, I believe that is Cisco, if I'm not mistaken there. Also, yep, so Cisco Systems also getting sold by over 1.8 million, 16% quarter-over-quarter decline for this particular fund. Now, coming over to Point72 Asset Management, Steve Cohen managing over $38 billion worth of assets. Performance-wise, over 50% returns since 2021, absolutely crushing the S&P 500. So the decisions that they're making definitely hold, in my opinion, a lot more value because they are generating significant amount of alpha when it comes to crushing the market here. So SPY, call, and put, we can't really analyze that with any accuracy. It has gone up, both call and the put side. But Amazon, for example, they are the ones that are actually selling. So 611,000. We did see them pick up Apple, Dell. Then we got Kroger, NVIDIA getting sold once again. 409,000 shares getting sold here. And Broadcom. Broadcom's also been at the very top of these lists for a lot of these notable investors. 3.1 million shares sold. That's a 67%. Quarter-over-quarter decline. And if you actually come over to Broadcom, we have seen quite an incredible rally for Broadcom, right? I mean, we talked about this and how it was on its way to potentially getting up to $1 trillion market cap. You'll notice that right now it's sitting at 734 billion. And since October of 2022, Broadcom is up a whopping almost 300%. Not to mention, since the start of this year, 2024, the stock is up a nice 55%. So as you can see, the last year to date, 44%, 1 year, 85%, right? So it makes sense why a lot of these firms, a lot of these hedge funds are lightening up on Broadcom and NVIDIA, right? So semiconductors, those are the two big ones that I've constantly seen. There's red next to them because they are actually getting rid of these stocks. And also they actually piled up on an NVIDIA put. So if you come take a look at this is going to be NVIDIA put, as you can see down here, 484,000 shares picked up, 48% quarter-over-quarter change. So not only did they actually sell NVIDIA, 409,000, and Broadcom, 3.1 million, but they actually bought a put on NVIDIA as well. Something to definitely keep in mind. And Autodesk, 664,000. And Comcast, 5.7 million. There seems to be a bit of a bullish bias on Comcast as well. So that's going to be CMCSA, trading at just over $39. It's been, of course, a little bit more back and forth, consolidated sideways from lows of 27 back up to 39, but it really hasn't gone anywhere since May 2023. And Apple here, 523,000 picked up by this fund from Steve Cohen. That's Point72 Asset Management. Now, moving over to Toronto Dominion Bank. Again, they do actually have a lot of assets under management, which is why I wanted to include them. $62 billion in assets under management. And they do also have a lot of really notable sales here in terms of changes. Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA getting sold off in the second quarter. QQQ put also coming down with Microsoft here, 158,000. So again, picking up a little bit, and then of course selling in larger quantities of 549,000. They also did pick up an IWM put and also sold SCHW, which I believe is a Charles Schwab dividend ETF, if I'm not mistaken, or might be a let's see, CSCHW. So that's still the corporation. That is not the ETF, but that is the Charles Schwab Corporation. So selling off 122,000 shares. And of course, NVIDIA, once again, coming in under hot selling pressure here. 1.3 million shares sold in the second quarter 2024 for this particular fund. Now, Schwab Charitable Fund. So this also 4.2 billion, and also some pretty notable changes. Once again, you'll notice NVIDIA. This actually, the reason why I wanted to include this is because $4.2 billion is the assets under management, and their top 10 holdings make up over 99%. And not only top 10, their top 1 holding is pretty much their entire portfolio. That is 98% of their holdings is in NVIDIA. It's pretty much in NVIDIA. It's all NVIDIA. This is literally Schwab Charitable Fund investing in NVIDIA stock with 98% of their holdings in this one stock, and they sold over 1.1 million shares, which again is a very, very small change, only 3% of the entire portfolio, but just goes to show that how investors, institution funds, hedge funds are lightening up on this position on NVIDIA. And then, of course, we did have Palo Alto Network, very, very small sale of VUG, Meta, Tesla, very small sales here, pretty much meaningless. But the main thing here is, of course, NVIDIA, once again, 1.1 million. And some of the notable buys, this is actually a pretty, defensive positioning, if you ask me, because they actually ended up buying Walmart, Mondelez, then we got Apple. And then, of course, we got SPY. So from everything that they sold with NVIDIA, 1.1 million shares, they actually ended up buying Walmart and Mondelez and Apple, which is a significant shift in the overall positioning of the fund, going from aggressive to a little bit more defensive. But at the same time, it's still 98% is still NVIDIA. So until we see a bigger change, bigger sale, and then moving into defensive, that is really not a huge signal that I really want to be clear on. Now, Clean Energy Transition. This is another fund managing over 3.7 billion as of the second quarter. And if you take a look at some of the positions that they got rid of, Occidental, Tesla put selling almost 2 million, so sold pretty much all. Occidental selling all as well, 1 million shares here. And then actually they ended up buying a lot of Tesla. So this is a new position, buying a lot of Tesla. We're talking over 4.8 million, ended up being one of the largest positions in the portfolio, over 51%. Makes sense because they are a clean energy transition fund. So they want to, of course, be looking at Tesla and picking up a lot of shares of 4.8 million. Now let's talk about Gotham Asset Management, Joel Greenblatt. The performance is also pretty strong. We're talking over 40% returns versus the S&P 500's 32% as of the first quarter. And this is where the notable sales come in. 64% decline on a quarter-over-quarter basis. And that, of course, is none other than Palantir. Over 237,000 shares sold for Palantir. Path also 186,000. Then we got American Airlines 186,000. And those are some of the notable sales, and notable buys are going to be for NVIDIA. So if other funds are selling, we've got Gotham Asset Management picking up 468,000 shares, Microsoft 20,000 shares, Apple and Google once again coming in under hot water here, selling off just a little bit, not a huge amount, but still 33,000, 11,000 respectively. And we did also have SPY getting picked up 234,000 shares in the second quarter for this particular ETF. Now, Paul Tudor Jones from Tudor Investment Corporation, the performance have actually been very, very abysmal. So we're looking at negative 23% return as of the second quarter versus the S&P 500's over 27%. So I'll let you decide how much weight you want to put to their decisions. But this right here are some of the notable sales, getting rid of TCN XLF put. We got Paramount, we've got NEO getting rid of over 1.3 million shares, and then HR selling all of it, and TCN also selling all of it. That's 5 million shares, 100% decline for those two positions. So TCN is actually going to be, we got TCNS Clothing. So is that what it is? TCN, traded on New York Stock Exchange. Let's take a quick look. What's the ticker? It doesn't have a ticker. It's in the real estate sector. So we'll take a look of what that company really is. But HR, let's take a look at that one. They are selling quite a lot. Pretty much everything is going to be Healthcare Realty Trust. So both seems to be in a real estate sector. So they seem to be exiting out of that real estate sector completely. 5 million and 1.2 million respectively for those two stocks here that they actually did have a lot of shares in, and over 100% decrease on a quarter-over-quarter basis. And of course, NEO getting out over 99% decrease on a quarter-over-quarter basis as well. So NEO, of course, is a pretty big pretty big retail name, I would say. Now, when it comes to notable buys, Bristol Myers getting picked up 2 million shares. That's a new position for them. Then you got CCL, Carnival Cruise Lines, and a lot of them are calls and puts, whether it's regional banks or Intel or IWM. Again, we can't really accurately describe what their positional stance would be, but be it BMI, which is Bristol Myers, and then of course Carnival Cruise and Unity Software getting picked up. Unity Software, a pretty big increase, 4,000% quarter over quarter. Now we come over to the big player, Jim Simmons, Renaissance Technology. They are actually one of the best hedge funds, funds in general. 43% performance versus the S&P 500 of 27%. So if you come over to some of their notable changes, this is both buys and sells. Take a look. Nowhere Nordisk, right? 15% decline quarter over quarter. That's over 1.6 million shares that they have sold. Palantir, 16.5% quarter over quarter decline, over 7.8 million shares that have been sold. And one more that I want to mention is SOFI. SOFI, I feel, is also here. Notable sales. There we go. So SOFI is also part of this. Palantir is number one in terms of notable sales. And SOFI, unfortunately, is also there. They actually sold all of SOFI. Renaissance Technology, 100% exit. 5.2 million shares sold in the second quarter 2024. And I would not take this decision lightly, because Renaissance Technology quite literally is one of the best, like I said, hedge funds, investment funds in the world. Very, very comparable to Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, but they also use quantitative trading mechanisms, algorithms, pretty much. They've been known in the industry for very, very good returns. So SoFi selling all of it, 5.2 million, 100% decrease on a quarter-over-quarter basis, and Palantir also getting rid of it, 7.8 million, 16.5% quarter-over-quarter decrease as well. So those are some things to keep in mind, because on a rank basis, it was actually ranked pretty high for their overall positioning in the entire portfolio. So they actually started in the fourth quarter 2023, looks like, first owned SoFi, and they have quarter ending price was $6.661. So as we already know, that SoFi hasn't really done a lot since that time. I mean, Palantir sure makes sense because it's rallied quite a bit, but SoFi is still pretty much at the same level as it was, in the fourth quarter 2023, kind of heading into 2024 as well. So that, I think, is a pretty big decision. Now, when it comes to what they ended up buying, Nvidia, they picked up 1.5 million shares. That's a 27.5% quarter-over-quarter increase. Then if you come over to Broadcom, Tesla, SFM, they all picked up. In fact, Broadcom was a new position for them. If everybody else was selling, they obviously were picking up Broadcom, and Tesla 255,000 as well. So this right here are going to be some other notable buys from Renaissance. Broadcom, as we already mentioned, 2.9 million. That's a new position. Then we've got ABEV. So let's take a look at what that company is. That's going to be Ambev, healthcare and pharmaceutical consumer staples here. Then we've got Rivian, RIVN, 153% increase quarter over quarter, 3.2 million shares. Then, of course, we got Carnival Cruise Lines and Zim Integrated Shipping. Also looks like they picked up 479% increase quarter over quarter, 2.1 million. And Robinhood, 2 million shares as well. So those right there are going to be some of the notable buys from Renaissance. Now, coming over to Ray Dalio, and Ray Dalio's performance has also trailed the S&P 500. We're looking at 18% versus 27% for S&P 500. These are some of the notable changes. We're looking at Google getting sold, Nvidia getting sold. We're looking at 800,000 to as much as 489,000 respectively. Procter & Gamble, 511,000. But Amazon, once again, getting picked up just under 1.6 million shares. That's a 152% increase on a quarter-over-quarter basis. Meta Platforms, a slight sale here, small sale. Johnson & Johnson, 361,000 picked up in the second quarter. And SPY, Costco, Coca-Cola, everything getting sold off, including Walmart, also sold off here, 370,000 shares for that company. And this right here are some of the notable sales. Apple also getting sold off, 1.3 million. It's a 74% decline quarter over quarter. So that's a pretty sizable, sale. We've got CVS, Coca-Cola, Comcast, once again, 2.2 million. So Ray Dalio selling, others are buying Comcast. And then we've got Google here, also 828,000. Uber, and then we've got, of course, CVS, Coca-Cola that we discussed earlier for this. And notable buys are going to come in with Amazon. Then we've got, ExxonMobil, DNN, UEC, a lot of these tickers. I'm not fully sure exactly what those are, so let's take a quick look. So DNN, Denison Mines Corporation. So this is a company that they picked up over 7 million shares, a new position for them. And UEC also is another company, so uranium energy. So going very much into mining and energy. They also picked up new position, 4 million shares. And this is also materials, SBSW and CCJ also in the energy sector. NXE is going to be also in the energy sector. Is that NextEra Energy? Just want to make sure. So that is Next Gen Energy Corporation. So very much moving into energy and materials. David Tepper from Appaloosa. Appaloosa performance-wise, absolutely crushing the S&P 500. Probably the best one we've seen. 55% return versus S&P 500's 32. This is as a first quarter though. This right here are some of the notable sales. Once again, getting out of NVIDIA, 84% quarter over quarter, 3.7 million shares. You got Intel, Alibaba, Amazon, Oracle, AMD, Microsoft, Meta, Google selling across the board in, again, small to medium quantities. But NVIDIA's sale was definitely a little bit higher. And this right here are going to be some of the buys. Adobe and picking up Lyft. So definitely buying a lot of Lyft here. 1,602% increase quarter over quarter, 7.5 million. And then, of course, betting heavily on KWEB. That, I believe, is a Chinese ETF, is it not? So let's take a quick look. So we've got, so Chinese Internet ETF, kind of following the footsteps of Michael Burry and even Ray Dalio. And JD.com, you got Uber, Adobe, ASML picking up here in a very, very small quantities as well. So there you have it. That is the breakdown of some of the largest money managers, investment managers, institutional investors here in the second quarter 2024. Again, this is not supposed to be an exhaustive list because I'm sure there's a lot of other managers and fund managers and funds overall that are making decisions. So I'll let you decide how valuable this is for you. For me, some of the more notable picks are going to be that NVIDIA, Google are been net sales from what I've analyzed for these funds. SOFI Palantir also was quite interesting. And then Amazon getting picked up by most companies, most funds here. Broadcom also, it's been a little bit more mixed. So those are some names that are popping up more and more constantly. And of course, clean energy picking up Tesla significantly over 4.9 million shares picked up in the second quarter. So hope you all enjoyed this video, found it helpful. Make sure that you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.